Hello there, everybody. It's another episode of Explain Yourself, where we're talking to indie comics creators about their projects and basically just going through all talking about comic stuff that we love. I'm here tonight with my co-host Joey Galvez. Joey, what's
How's it
up?
going? How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Been a long week, but glad to be here. Had a pretty busy weekend, and glad to be on and ready to talk some
Yeah,
comics.
it's gonna be fun, man. We're gonna be talking about all kinds of really cool Kickstarters that are hitting the shelves, or I should say, the digital shelves, right?
Absolutely. So we have a few
So, man,
books.
I gotta talk to you real quick.
Go
You
for it.
ended a Kickstarter, or not a Kickstarter, crowdfunding, and how was the experience of that? 'Cause it was a little bit difficult, kind of getting over that hump, though.
Yeah. We just got done. We kind of put a little extra time on the clock there to get us over the hump
Yeah,
there, but it was a rough month. I'll tell you. I think that
I feel
I
that.
looked at a lot of books, similar price points in July and June, doing really well,
Mhm.
and it feels like the bottom kind of fell out in August, which was the name of my book. So that's kind of why we went there. Maybe it should have been the July of August.
There you go.
But yeah, so I'm just glad we made the goal, though. I'm excited to get those books out there, and that character is kind of my baby. So
Yeah.
really, just glad we got the goal. We're gonna get them printed up and take it from there.
See,
And right now, I'm
I
back
think
on Scarlet Twilight.
I think it's kind of funny because when you put books out there, you might have a genre, and then you switch to a different genre or to a different kind of character, and it's kind of fun to kind of see how the market accepts that sometimes, and
Yeah,
sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the fun of Kickstarter, right? That's why we have these guests here, and that's what we're here to do: talk about these different things and figure out what works best for each campaign, because not every campaign is the same.
this is absolutely true. Speaking of which, there's a few campaigns I think you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to
Oh, sure.
talk about, we have a territory that is out there. You just head on over to geekcollective.net/territory. It's a really cool kaiju epic story there. We also have Orchard. It's some super powered people are put under their thumb by this government agency, right? Very cool. And then we have also a good friend of both of us, Rob Motari. He has a book called Wolfpack Pups, which is a children's book. So that one's a little bit over 51% right now. So if you guys want to head on over there, and he's got about 2 or 3 days left. So we really need one of those Kickstarter miracles to kind of jumpstart that one and make sure that that one gets made. And then I don't think there's anything else. We just want to talk about our next guest here in a second. But
Mhm.
before we do, we got a couple plugs that you wanted to get out of the way before we jump into all that good stuff, right?
Absolutely. First one is I think something that should be important to everybody doing Kickstarters. Gotta get these things sent out well, and gotta use your Gemini mailers. I've seen even this week. I say it every week, but I feel like every week I'm not even making it up. I keep seeing posts like I just got my Kickstarter comic in like a media bag. It's dented. There was a pin on top of it. And it's just important that build that into your shipping costs. And one way we can help is if you use the code eCollective10 over at Gemini Comic Supply, you'll get a little bit better deal. Kind of make that a little easier to do the right thing as far as getting these comics out to your backers.
Definitely. Well, that's one key things is making sure that if you can get these things out to your backers, make sure that they are safe. and
Yeah.
Gemini Miller is one of those things, and there's tons of other suppliers out there as well. But we have this 10% off code for you guys. Head on over to Gemini Mailing Supply and use Geek Collective 10 in the at checkout. You guys will be getting a good amount off, man. I've seen this save a couple of friends of mine $200. So that's a pretty significant amount when you need that for other things and shipping and costs and printing costs and all that good stuff. So especially when you got all this swag that you guys are offering, which I really want to get into this next campaign that we're going to be talking about, because he's got all kinds of really cool stuff, all kinds of cool rewards and swag and everything within it. So I think we should just bring our next guest in here. Right, we got Kyle, and I'm gonna have you lead this one because I feel like I'm doing my host thing, and I don't want to step on your toes.
It's fine. No, Kyle, it's great to have you on the show, man. Looked
Thank
at
you.
the campaign; it looks awesome. But why don't you give us the 30-second pitch for the Adventures of Wyatt and Pouches?
Well, Wyatt and Pouches is a collection of adventures between a 13-year-old boy that's got special mental abilities and his imaginary friend, Pouches. So think like in the time frame and setting, like Wonder Years meets Calvin and Hobbes meets Deadpool.
That's a good combination. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if you're
So
in your 40s, and you love the 90s and comics, you're gonna love this book.
I think that's pretty much our demographic here, at least. So
Oh well,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It's good to
So if you
check
want to pull that
those
campaign up, so we can see the imagery here, because I think that'll make it clear there's a really good story behind how you created this and a little bit of the back and forth that's gone on since you've been putting it out there.
All right, let me.
And Cal, I got a question. How long have you been doing comic books for, man?
Well, I've been reading comics since I was 12 years old. So I've been playing in the realm of the comic book field as an artist for going on 6-8 years. So this is our campaign. We did, we had a $500 goal. It was my first comic book campaign. I came up with this character in 2015. So a lot of the people that follow my work, while it might be a shallow pool, they've been waiting for this for almost a decade. So we smashed that $500 goal in the first 3 minutes of being live. So I'm very, very grateful. I had to recalibrate what my stretch rewards would be, my stretch goals would be, because we started smashing through them in the first hour of the campaign. We smashed through 2 or 3 of them. So
very cool.
I'll show you some of this. This is some of the interior work here. This is a black and white page. The interior art by Christopher Michael Lanning. There's some colored imagery. You see Wyatt there knocking over his father's beer stein while he's animatedly talking about a Wolverine trading card, and Pouches is like, "Oh shit," And then we got some of the covers. Got the A cover by the main artist on the book. And we got some variants, Joe Vereen here, Carl Moline, got Mike Ratliff, a couple homage covers. People love the homages. And then we got some stretch goals. We got everybody that's backing in a physical tier is now getting a holofoil sticker and 2 trading cards. And we unlocked a new cover by Morant Michaels yesterday. And I'm trying to get us all the way to the challenge coin. At $12,000, we'll unlock a challenge coin tier. So there's the collection of the covers, and that's the short version of the campaign.
All right, cool. I loved seeing this. I'm a big Morant Michaels fan from back in the day. It was awesome. You got one of the sort of old Image Comics guys to do some of this.
Look at that, they use Gemini.
I'm sorry, what?
And they use Gemini mailers too.
Perfect.
Yeah, remind me. I had an idea while you were doing your intro about your Gemini situation. So let's bring that up at the end, because I'd like to talk about that before.
Absolutely,
definitely.
But tell me a little bit about how you created this character. We talked a little bit about this backstage, and it was a great story. Tell me a little bit how you created this and how it came about.
I was sitting at a con, and by con I mean, you know how you go to like a local hotel that they've rented out the banquet room? I can stop sharing this now. There we go. You do a local show, and it's really, a bunch of guys vending at like the banquet room of a local hotel. You know what I mean?
Those are the best ones.
Here in Jacksonville, Florida, there's this guy Joe Peace. He used to rent out the banquet hall, but he'd be the only vendor. And it was called the Comic Book Connection. This dude had a tractor trailer full of stuff. And I went to one of his shows, and I was like, man, he's got all this space. I was like, would you like, to have an artist set up, so you have some appeal to people that collect art? And he's like, well, if you give me, he did a giveaway every half hour on the half hour. It's very much trying to engage people by doing giveaways and stuff. People very much hung around longer and longer for the giveaways. He's like, if you give me some of your art prints that I can use as giveaway items, you can set up for free. And I was like, that seems fair.
It's a good deal.
So I was there early for one of these shows, and I just pulled like a comic book backboard and started doodling on it. And that's something that's very common for me. I'm always doodling. And I don't know if I had seen like a copy of X-Men or something where Cyclops had all these tactical pouches, which seeing pouches on characters like Deadpool and stuff was normal, but for it to be on Cyclops, like what's in those pouches, man? I started doodling. It sparked. I started drawing a character that was completely comprised of tactical pouches, with these big guns, and I made these tiny little feet that really no feet. And I was like, oh, that's very Rob Liefeld-esque, And I posted it on Instagram, and Rob Liefeld even, graced it with a little LOL comment, which was pretty
Nice.
cool. And that was in 2015, and I kind of let the character kind of roll around in my head, and I revised him because it was a very rough sketch. But I revised them over the years, and I gave them because everybody in the 90s, everybody's character had a segmented metal arm or like an earpiece for who they're talking to, who knows, or like a cybernetic eye or these gigantic guns. So I just implemented all of those things poking fun at the 90s era of comics into this character. And then I formulated the concept of Wyatt. Wyatt in the book also writes his own comic book, and Pouches was his character, and he gets into a car accident and something happens in the hospital where he ends up with higher brain function, and he gets eidetic memory, he's got a photographic memory, and his abstract thought capabilities are through the roof. So he wants to maintain his sense of childhood. He doesn't want everybody to know that he's like the smartest person in every room he walks into now. So he forms a relationship with this comic character he had created, Pouches, and they go on different adventures. And that's what you're going to get to see with this first issue of the book. You're going to get to see two different little adventures, one written by me and one written by my buddy, Steven Rolberg.
Awesome.
Very cool. That's awesome.
So I understand that Rob Liefeld then made a sketch kind of like this a few years later.
Yeah, in 2018, I start getting all these DMs and tags where people were sending me screenshots where Rob had created his own version of a all Pouches, character, where I created a character called Pouches. He called his version The Pouch. And there was no metal arm, no cybernetic eye. His version just was all Pouches. And I was like, hey, man, that's so funny that, he saw my idea and he made his own version. That's really fun. But then in 2018, he published the character on the cover of a issue of Bloodstrike Brutalists, issue 23. And I was like, that's come on, what are you doing? You're profiting off of my idea. What am I going to do about it? My friends they're all indignant on my behalf. They're like, he stole your character. And I'm like, but it's Rob. We love Rob. He's the quintessential bad boy of comics, And they're all like, fuck that. You need to do something. I'm like, what am I going to do? Go to the top of a mountain and yell? Like, who cares what little Kyle Willis has to say about it? So somebody put me in touch with Rich Johnston, the owner of Bleeding Cool, and I explained to him what was going on. He's like, yeah, show me the receipts, and I showed him the Instagram post where Rob had commented on it and how he created, there you go. There's the Rob's cover. And he's like, let me reach out to Rob for comment. So he reaches out to Rob. He's like, this guy thinks you bit off of his idea. Rob's like, I never heard of him. And they're like, well, what about where you commented on that post 3 years ago? And he was like, well, he can do whatever he wants. He kind of stormed out of the tent and slammed the flap, if you will.
Wow.
Which, that was a couple years ago, man. No big deal. That was like 5 years ago. I got no ill in my heart about that. Like, whatever. It was, for me, it's a great coffee table story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow. Tell people that Rob took your idea and ran with it,
Yeah, and it's a pretty obvious, it's satire. It's not like...
Yeah,
I had Rob in mind ways to get there.
When I created it, he did more Pouches than anybody,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So now, get to now where I finally had enough time and money to pay to help get this book and bring it to life, pay people to help write. I lettered the whole thing, but to illustrate, and it's being colored right now by Sam Diaz. That shit ain't free, So the whole book is in the bag, sans the colors. And the Kickstarter goes live. And we immediately bust through the couple of the stretch goals. So I posted one of the covers, the Shelby Robertson cover, in a Facebook group called Comic Book Group. 20-something thousand people in there. And I was like promoting the comic, and I put the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the comments. And then a day or two later, Rob posts one of his Bloodstrike covers with the pouch on it. He was like, established 2017, created by Rob Liefeld. And I know that he did that. He did that trying to start this narrative that he created the character before I did. And I have no idea why he's doing that. it doesn't make any sense to me. He's punching down at this point. And I'm
I
just
don't
like,
think so.
do it, dude. And and then he jumped on my post that he posted all the covers that had the pouch on it. And he commented on my original post, And I was just like, what is he doing? My wife is like, is he okay? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, Kyle, you didn't know, but we have a mystery guest. No, just kidding.
Oh man, I'd love to hear this.
Yeah, Rob, come on in.
I hope he's
hey,
not-
Rob the Lake.
Listen,
Sure.
we will give the open call right now. Rob, if anybody out there knows Rob Liefeld, we will allow you to come on here and we'll
Come on here
have
and chat
Kyle-
with us, baby boy. Come on here.
Come talk to us. We'll sit down. We'll have a sit down. We'll talk about this. Let's be adults.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Man, that's a wild
that's so
story.
crazy.
Dude.
I mean, to think
So
like,
crazy.
Somebody
better to
posted a screenshot of my campaign. Rob's got this extreme Rob Liefeld group. And somebody posted a screenshot of my post in his group. Looks like somebody stole your idea. And he knows that I didn't. But he hasn't retorted and told anybody that. He's like, oh, I created the pouch in 20 whatever. And somebody's like, well, Kyle says he created in 2015. And then Rob posts a picture of not a character, just a picture of a pouch that he posted in 2009. He was like 2009 mic drop or whatever. I was just like, what is going on? So
Man.
it's bizarre, but and it is blue in the face as I might be this last week and a half, having to explain that, that tale to several people who think that I'm biting this idea. Ultimately, the screenshots and the posts are still there, so the timestamps don't lie. And the receipts that Rob loves to say, oh, I got the receipts. Well, the receipts add up in my favor. So at the end of the day, it's just free marketing.
yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Every time he posts, and people make this correlation, once they find out that Rob's full of shit, which I don't know why he would. This dude's he's one of the most popular comic book creators that's alive right now. Everybody knows his name. You're not going to meet many people that don't know his name. So for him to punch down at little old me, I don't get it. You know what I mean? But but have at it. Keep getting me new backers, Rob.
There you go.
keep
I mean, he's in the news this week, so there you go, man. Maybe that's in your
Yeah,
favor.
absolutely.
Hashtag pouches.
Yeah.
The real
The pouch war of
Real
2023.
Dude, Pouchgate, right? Like,
I like it.
Pouchgate. Hashtag Pouchgate. We're doing it. We're tagging every single thing we do.
but
We're
you
gonna
can't
tag
you
it in.
can't harsh my mellow. This campaign, the work is done. Yes, the colors are still coming in, and I think we got like 12 more pages that need to be colored. But you
And how long do you have left till the campaign's over?
Yeah, we got 18 days to go on the campaign.
Oh, you're it's in the
That's a
bag.
great start.
So
Yeah.
I'm golden for my first comic book, my first creator-owned IP comic book that I'm putting out into the world. For it to be a success this early on, I mean, I don't know if you know who Travis Gibb is. I call him Papa Indy.
No idea
really
who
big
he
name.
is.
Yeah, he's
we
good.
don't know that guy. Just kidding. We
So are you being funny? I don't know.
yes,
I
am.
wasn't even gonna. I was just gonna publish the book myself and take it with me to New York Comic Con, and that's where it was gonna make its debut. And I was talking to him, and he's like, "You gonna do a Kickstarter?" He was talking about it as if though I was already gonna do a Kickstarter, and he was kind of like, "Let me know when you get ready to start the Kickstarter." And I was like, "I wasn't really gonna do a Kickstarter." And he was like, "Why?" He's like, "You got your fans, but what about all the people that are gonna find it organically on the website?" And I'm like.
Mhm.
Oh, I guess that makes sense, So I scrambled to put the Kickstarter together kind of last minute, and I made him a collaborator on it only so he could see it from the back end and help me, make whatever changes he thought, made sense. And he gave me some really, really rock solid advice. And here we are, we've smashed, over $5,000. I got 88 backers with now 17 days to go. So
That's a great number. 88 backers. You had a $5,000 goal. Low, so that means you don't have too many low tiers and you don't have a lot of high tiers. You have a pretty good amount of something there for everybody.
I mean, I have a $3 digital tier and I have a $150 collector's box. That's the breadth of the tiers. That's not all the tiers, but that's the start and the finish line of the dollar amounts. And my average backer is $66 according to my advanced analytics. So
yeah,
bring up this box real quick because this is cool looking.
Thank you. It was a company that Travis told me to use or led me to, and it ain't cheap. So
I'm sure. But no, it looks awesome. I want to do one of those someday.
Thank you. That is the
we got the hookup, man. We can do it.
Yeah,
we can do it, man. We have the hookup.
That is the Hulk 181 homage by Mike Ratliff.
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Now, how many books will fit in this?
That should fit like 10 books, but there's seven going to go in it. Eight books will go in it. So I'm gonna put one of every cover in there, and then a medal at random.
Oh, that's fun.
All
I love that. I love when we do these mysteries. So with these mystery boxes, what are you setting these prices at?
Well, it's not a mystery box. It says that it's got every book that's in it and all the swag. All the physical swag will go in it. So if we get to where we've it's going to get the holofoil sticker, the 2 trading cards. If we get to where we unlock the magnet, the Hulk 181 homage that's on the cover of the box, if we unlock the magnet, they'll get the magnet as well. They're going to get every trade dress cover and a medal, a virgin medal at random.
So these are what you're going to ship everything in, is what you're saying.
Okay. The mystery boxes are going to go in that box. Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, I'll put that box inside of another box in case they want to collect that box. I'm not going to put like a shipping label on that box.
Yeah, I'm thinking people will definitely be up for grabbing these boxes too. Like there's a market there for these, these boxes that you can open up their hard cased boxes where you can take them to the cons and get your books signed, and you put them right back in that box.
Sure.
Yeah, plus
I own a comic book shop here in Florida, so I actually went back to that website and created a different box, and I made 200 of them. I'm going to do mystery boxes at New York Comic Con next month.
Yeah, it's great.
So we're going to do. I had a collection come in, and there was ASM 129. It was signed by Gil Kane and John Romita. And
cool.
Instead of having it clean and pressed and sending it to CBCS and waiting to recoup that investment, I'm just going to put that randomly in one of the boxes. And so it's going to be hopefully the first freaking person who buys a mystery box doesn't find it. You know what I mean? But will be randomized. So we're going to sell mystery boxes at New York Comic Con. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. And so just to get back to the story a little bit, I think what you're doing is really cool because you're not, I think the obvious thing to do with and it's kind of what it looks like Rob Liefeld's cover was, where it's like the pouches and the guns. It's going to be like action over the top. You're kind of saying, okay, that's cool, but he's an aspect of this kind of Calvin and Hobbes-esque, relationship between two characters, which I think is a much, there's a little more fruitful angle there to play with the characters, to give you a different type of story, and to bring a character that's representative of all that 90s stuff into something that is very 90s, but not necessarily this sort of smoky Cable and the X-Men type of environment. So tell me a little bit more about, like, you told me kind of their origins. What kind of scope does this story have? Is it a little slice of life?
So there's 2 stories in the first book, and I don't want to give my story away, but I'll tell you a little bit about Steve's, the second story in the book. So basically, you're seeing an action scene go down. Pouches is running down the typical hallway where the door is closing at the end of the hallway, and he reaches into one of his pouches and he pulls out some dish soap and he throws it, and it opens up and he slides under the door and he fights a guard and he gets into this other room to rescue the president's daughter, and you come to find out this is Pouches pitching the idea for what story should go in the first book. And it's this over-the-top story, and it's really, why it's like, he says a couple of things that are maybe a little risque with the president's daughter, and why it's like, I don't think we can tell a story like that. And he's like, why? The hero always gets the girl, and he's like, yeah, that seems a little too no. Maybe we'll do like a Star Wars scene or something, So. Yeah, there's the opportunity for storytelling with the dynamic of the characters is boundless. So I'm excited to get ready to start writing the next book.
Awesome. Yeah.
I just need to know is Pouches going to meet Rob Liefeld in the book?
He's gonna have to now.
And it has to be after you came up with the concept. So it has to. If we're gonna do a Back to the Future kind of thing, it has to solidify that you made sure this.
Maybe
Just sitting there on Instagram with
that Levi's commercial in some way.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm gonna try to wipe the camera here. I feel like I gotta. I don't know if it's
a little brighter. All right.
Well, this is awesome.
I love the Pouchgate aspect of this.
Right.
Yeah, it was like no added cost. I gotta, what do you call a little scandal surrounding the title now for no extra charge.
I'm gonna have to find that story now. I knew he had crowdfunded one of the Bloodstrike Brigade, whatever, and it wasn't Youngblood, it was one of his other ones. And I don't know if it ever came out actually. But
it did. He fulfilled some of the people's orders with books that were not what they had paid for. And anytime somebody brings it up to him, he bans them and blocks them. And I found out literally today that there is a Facebook group called Banderai Rob Liefeld ? So there's a whole group of people that are in their echo chamber complaining.
Yeah. So, well, that's why I was surprised to see that cover, because I'm like, he didn't actually go back and do some Bloodstrike. But then I saw that it was that Michael Fifi. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. The guy that does Copra, or the sort of Suicide Squad knockoff thing. But he's been doing a bunch of Image stuff that's like call back to the 90s.
Okay, right on.
All those sort of lesser extreme books that were not Youngblood. I guess that makes sense. But no, I think your angle is like kind of what you're describing. There's just a lot to play with there. That's not.
Yeah, there's so much, meat on the bone there for me to have so much fun. And that all I have is excitement, And I'm not mad with the thing with Rob. I might be perplexed, but I mean, I'm very grateful. If I knew his address, I would send him a fruit basket in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? So if Extreme Studios was a thing still that had an address that I could mail him something,
you got to do a fruit basket, and at the bottom is your comic, and he's like enjoying the fruit. It's like, what a nice guy.
I'm not gonna lie to you. There's so many of my collectors and my fans who, over the course of the last few years, have become my friends, that they're backing this thing just so they can get a copy, so they can take it to them at a con and see the look on their face.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome. And it's cool because what you describe about their conversation and the other story, we all had those conversations as kids. I think, and this, I guess I'm just going to sing Liefeld's praises here a little bit, and the other guys that really, I mean, if you look at 1987 and then 1989, when the kind of the period where Jim Lee started getting really good, X-Men 1 came out, McFarlane started doing a lot of stuff. Comics just changed so much. Everything was so, I mean, not that I didn't like it before, but it just looked so, there was just such a glacial divide there between your kind of more polished 80s, Little Byrne, Little Romita Sr., kind of cleaner art style. And then suddenly you had Liefeld and the Pouches, all the lines on people's faces, the way McFarlane would draw the webbing on Spider-Man. And then, of course, when it all went to Image, kind of even took it to another level. As far as those things, there was a lot to take in there. I think if you were a comics fan at that age in, say, 1982, 1985, it just wasn't as exciting. There wasn't as much to talk about. So I think even when you kind of have that dynamic between your two characters, that happened in a lot of ways. That was that's kind of a dramatization of how much that changed. And,
I mean, these boys were cowboys, man. They were the greatest artists of a generation.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They were treated like rock stars, and like you would expect, their heads were so inflated that they're like, we're gonna go change the world, but they can't write, as good as they can draw. So everything was style over substance, At least Todd McFarlane was smart enough that he had guest writers coming in and writing issues of Spawn, which was the smartest thing he could have done, But
I
to
think
me,
Larson
at
was a
that
pretty
age,
good writer.
I was a young teenager. I was wrestling with my own faith at the time, and to know that Todd was an open atheist and he was writing a story about heaven and hell, and I was like,
Mhm.
I am all in on that, you know. But to have Dave Sim and all the other creators that came in to write, Neil Gaiman and everybody,
Gaiman, yeah, Gaiman famously.
write issues with him and help co-create some of his characters. That was really smart. That's why Spawn is still around.
I think that contributes to it in a big way because the world of Spawn, I think, it was more centered on a character. It was very direct. He had a very simple conflict, a very simple setup, and then I think to what you're saying, where he brought in all those other writers, they really broadened the world a little bit. Angela, I
Oh
know
yeah,
she's Marvel. I think she's Thor's sister now or something. I don't know what the heck happened
yeah,
there, but
one of the Valkyrie or something.
yeah, that's weird. But like there was, I think that
That's
he
what
brought
happens
in
when you
other
stop
people.
paying royalty payments.
Yeah, no, I remember reading, and I read about it in my issues of Hero Illustrated back in the day. But those other people really broadened the world of Spawn, I think, a really smart way. That gave it a little bit more to, like, Wildcats didn't really have a lot of other stuff coming in. There weren't a lot of interesting ideas being introduced. Same for most of the Extreme books. I love Savage Dragon, still do, but it was very much and I think this is its strength. It was very much a pastiche of like the Marvel kind of Claremont era subplots are going to roll into the big plots and that kind of thing. Spawn always had this like very good, like central story and a lot of interesting things, pretty big ideas, really. When you like what you said, the heaven and hell stuff just got bigger and bigger and bigger as the story went on, and it really captured your imagination in a way that great characters do. But
It did get to a point like the show Supernatural that, like, okay, you stop the Armageddon, like what where the hell do you go from here? So to see him
Yeah.
say, okay, where do I go from here? Boom, I'm going to create the whole universe. Now he's got 5 titles, between
Yeah.
Scorched and Gunslinger Spawn, and oh my goodness, King Spawn, and good for him. This is his way
I kind of dipped back in
the money to get that movie out.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see that movie. I don't.
Mhm.
I like the first. I worked in a movie theater actually when the first one came out, and they let me spend a week painting a giant mural of Spawn and
Way
the
cool.
Clown Violator, and I think that was all that was in there. There really isn't anybody else to put there, but that was a lot of fun. And people thought like, "Oh, you're the guy that made up Spawn." I'm like, "No, I'm not the guy that made up Spawn." I was 17,
Yeah, I came to this movie theater in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's if I was the guy that created Spawn, would I be here in 20 miles north of Cincinnati at this theater on the outskirts,
Painting
That's
this
hilarious.
mural.
in this mural that no one will ever see again. But it was a fun week.
That's fun. That's awesome. Very cool.
So you mentioned that there's going to be more stories that you're working on already with these characters. Can you tell us a little bit? I don't want you to obviously feel like you have to spoil nothing, but kind of
So
where
I put
where
off
we're going.
writing this book for a long time.
Mhm.
And the reason that I did that, if you ever wrote a book, is because I dealt with what I came to find is called the burden of knowledge. Is I know the backstory and every detail about these characters, and how can I give a proper first issue and not just kind of vomit all the facts of how he got his ability, how Wyatt got his abilities, and how everything came to be the characters that it. And I finally made a deal with myself. I was like, save that. That can be a later issue. Just give them some of the story for some of the adventures for now.
Mhm.
The book was originally going to be titled On My Honor because the kid is in like our world's version of Boy Scouts, and that's like part of their little pledge.
Mhm.
And I morphed it into the adventures because I wanted to get a story out. Where's it going to go from here? Well, I've got another story in the bag, actually written by Travis Gibb, where Wyatt has to deal with grief, and he deals with that grief by imagining a fantastical scenario, where the grief that he feels has a physical representation. It's an evil person to be defeated in his imagination, where in reality, he's dealing with a death in the family and he's dealing with loss. And I think it's an incredible story that when Travis first turned it in, I don't think that I gave it the credit that it deserved. And the more I sat with that story in the back of my mind, the more I was like, this could be tremendous without being too on the nose, you know. So that him writing that story proved to me that I was right, that the possibilities are endless, you know. There's so much fun to be had with these guys, you know. I'm excited, you know. And if my campaign reaches 10,000 in funding, I'm going to have to get a Pouches tattoo. You know, that's the stretch goal. If it reaches 10 grand, I'm going to get a big Pouches tattoo on my arm. So, yeah, I'm in. I got my skin in the game at that point.
Awesome. And I hear what you're saying. It took me like 10 years to put together my August book, just because same thing. I was developing it for like a year, and then I kind of had the story and the characters. And every time I tried to just organize my thoughts into a first issue, especially, I'd be like, I'd lived with it for so long. I'm like, no, you can't. You got to explain why this character has this, or why these people know each other, or what the backstory is, because it was all in my head, and it became very difficult to, in each draft of the story, remember what I know versus what the audience knows.
Sure.
There's so many things it was easy to overlook because I'm like, no, I've just lived with this so long. I feel like it's in some ways common knowledge. And of course, it isn't. So yeah, that can definitely be tough to do. But it sounds like this world is a very good a springboard. You can do a lot of different things, a lot of dramatic things, and you've got, you know, a setup and a concept that's going to be pretty versatile and let you tell a lot of really great stories. Is it going to be more serialized, or is it going to be kind of one-offs that do different things, or is there kind of an ongoing?
A series of one-offs.
Okay.
I don't because I don't want anybody to feel like if the like this story that's coming out now is the A cover is sold out and they can't get a copy or whatever. I don't want anybody to feel like they have to have that book in order to read the next one that comes. So I think it'll just be one-offs for now, you know, unless I have an overarching story to tell, then maybe we could do a volume, but in the meantime, it'll be a series of one-offs.
Sounds cool. Very cool.
I don't know if it's in the cards, but I don't think it's definitely not off the table. But I did have Marat Michaels do a variant cover for me, and he was willing to put Tigum and Deadpoo into the background of the cover. So if you look at that Secret Wars 8 homage that he did, it's got Tigum and Deadpoo in there. So if he's open to it and the book is well received by the public, I'd love to see those characters cross over into my world. Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, that's the Spider-Man costume there, sort of cover, but very cool to see. Yeah, and there's just, like I said, there's just so much you can do with this stuff that it's going to be fun. And I think this is really, there's so much 90s nostalgia right now, and I'm as guilty as that as anyone. I think this is such a fresh look at that, and kind of a meta-textual look at that stuff that I think really works. Tell me about getting into. How did you get Merritt? How did you just find him on social media and commission him to do this, or?
Well, I worked the Comic-Con circuit with him, so I brush elbows on a consistent basis. So I'm actually bringing it up if you want to.
Oh, sure.
And he's local out here in Phoenix area, so
cool. Not anymore. He moved to. He lives
yes, true, but he's still one of those guys that definitely comes out here all the time, and you see when you see the owners posting, you're like, oh, look who popped in, and there he is.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, awesome!
Yeah, he's local out here. I mean, local as anybody else. Right?
There
Very cool.
So the companies that he prints with are all out there in Arizona, so he definitely has ties to the area.
Yeah.
He was one of those artists. I feel like when I was a kid, obviously I liked all the big image guys, and then there were the kind of like people in their studios, and like I kind of had my favorites and people I didn't like. And Merritt Michaels was like, oh, he's one of the good extreme artists. I would always pick up those books. or Scott Clark.
When I was young, I judged them on the quality of the work, and the older I get, the more that I've met my heroes, I judge people by the quality of their character. And I got to tell you, man, Marat with the Heartily Thin and the Do You Poo, the Dead Poo stuff, that there's a lot of, it's very rewarding for him to do this fun parody that everybody wants to collect all these covers from. But you know as well as I do that it comes with a certain caliber of hatred from members of the community.
Yeah.
And the way this man wears that, like it ain't shit. Like I strive to be more like him. Nothing can harsh that man's mellow. I've seen him, the comments roll off of his back. He's never one to engage a troll. If you're not into what he does, he's like, it's all right. It's not for you. No big deal. He just doesn't. He seems impenetrable when it comes to the haters. So I love him. He always has a smile on his fucking face, man. The dude is just he's so uplifting to be around. I love him. Of course I love his art, but I love seeing him. So I fist bump him every time I can.
Awesome.
And it's when I see that he's going to be at the show, it's like, oh, right, cool. Another one of the good guys is here. You know what I mean? It makes the show feel like home when you're setting up your booth and you look over and you see him. You're like, oh, all right, you were Clay McDonald with this show? Awesome. I'll come over and I'll mess with you when I'm done setting up. So
awesome. So you have a shop as well.
I do. I own an LCS, Cowabunga Comics. October 2nd will be our second anniversary in a micro town, bro. Nowhere, USA. It's called Green Cove Springs, Florida. I'm halfway between Jacksonville and St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, okay. I have family in Garden City, Florida, which I think is near Jacksonville.
I'm not familiar with Garden
City.
City.
It's a small town too. There's a Plant
City, but I don't even know where it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a cute little shop. So I was doing a lot of graphic design work for the online only retailers like Scorpion Comics when they started doing COAs with their exclusives. I was the guy that was making all the COAs.
Okay.
And I let them pay me in books. So every time I did a COA for a book, I got two sets of the books, the Virgin and Trade Dress, and the books that I wanted to keep. Yay, I didn't have to pay $60 for a set of books. I put it in my PC. But the books that I weren't into, I'm like, I'm not really in a Wonder Woman by Art Germ. It's a great cover, but it's not for me. I would sell those on the side. And then when the pandemic happened, what was once like a small portion of my income, it flipped and comics sales went through the roof because now all the money, people are stuck inside their homes during the pandemic, all the money that they were used to spending on going to sports games, going to the movies, going to rock concerts, going to bar, they're now spending on things that bring them fulfillment in their own home. Like comic books. A lot of people revisited their love for comic books after years of not collecting. So my sales for the comics went through the roof. I ended up getting a diamond account, even though I was home-based. And I started only dealing in homage covers. I had a company, it was called Cover Swipes. So if you go to coverswipes.com, it'll redirect to the homage portion of Cowabunga Comics. But eventually I had so many books that I had available that weren't homage covers that I had to rebrand. So there came Cowabunga Comics. So
very cool. So you're in every aspect of this community. You're in the crowdfunding now. You've got a shop. You're doing all the convention circuit. You're out there, man.
I'm very grateful that I've only just now done a Kickstarter because I know that I'm not going to make all those newbie mistakes of how do I ship these books? I got a dealer account with Gemini. I get 2,720 Geminis at a time. I get a pallet delivered to my door. So fulfillment isn't going to be a problem. And I know that a lot of people that start these campaigns, if they have them be successful when they weren't ready for that amount of success they struggle and they stumble when it comes to fulfillment, and I'm not going to have that problem. I actually am, if I could say this, maybe a little over prepared. At $12,000 pledged, we have a stretch goal for a challenge coin. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we're going to meet that goal because there's a 4-week turnaround time on challenge coins. So I already sent them to be made 2 weeks ago and paid for them. So if I don't meet the $12,000 stretch goal, I'll have them for sale, and when I do shows. But I'm thinking that I'll be able to get that Kickstarter to that goal and make it happen.
Yeah, and and it's good that you have. I know there's been a little bit of discourse about people getting stuff printed and having trouble fulfilling Kickstarters when things just go a little off. And a comment I saw from somebody, I can't remember who, said like you really should have a plan for not just how you're going to cover your Kickstarter, but how you're going to make money on this book afterwards. Which, of course, you being in every aspect of this business, you have that covered. And I think that's something that I don't really want to dip into that whole back and forth that went on, but I thought that was an insight that I wanted to hold on to, and it reminded me of it just now. Is people should have some kind of plan. It can be very different, I think, and certainly can scale, but to have a plan for doing things like that is always good, because I think you look at just Kickstarters, things change really quickly. Sometimes there's months that everybody's doing really well. There's some really dry months too. The people that can do kind of what you're doing, Kyle, is diversify just a little bit. Say, I'm going to do this way, and then like they can kind of take advantage of whatever is working out really well at the moment. And I think that's something I'm really trying to figure out how to do a little better myself. So I think it's a good lesson to be learned.
So make no mistake, right now it's slow season in the industry. This is slow season. Everybody's variants aren't doing well right now because everybody's got the fatigue from the convention season, and they're looking forward to the biggest convention of the year, which is New York Comic Con. So I know that this is my baby, little fledgling, first time out the gate book. So I made 5 spots available for retailers to do their own cover. And 4 people have already claimed them. And I made it super accessible. The way it works is they determine the print run. They hire their artist to do the art. And if the art, if I'm digging the artwork and it gets approved, they send it to print. They do not pay me a dime. They pay the printer the cost of printing the books, and I get 15% of the print run that I can sell once they've had a chance to sell their books. So I don't know that anyone has ever done that before.
Well, I've got a similar idea that I pitch to my creators when I go into talking to them about the process of how we the services that we offer. And every single time I've pitched, and I asked them, do you guys have a personal relationship with a local comic shop that you trust fully and completely? And if they say yes, well, the next thing would be then talk to them about going into a print run that they would handle themselves. If you now here's the difference, right? That I talked to them about. I was like, well, if you have an extra cover that's already done and paid for, have them slap on their stuff, give them the variant, and then if they want to pay for 200 copies, allow them to pay for the 200 copies on top of what you're already going to go ahead and do, especially if you're a direct market publisher. If they pick up a book, then you can also talk to them about, if they're going to pick up your book, you can run a Kickstarter, have them do the same thing, or do some orders of their own with different covers. And then about a month or two after you deliver your Kickstarter books, or at the same time you're delivering your Kickstarter books, your books are in the direct market, or your books are in their shop. So with different covers and things of this nature. And so I've got but it's very rarely I don't think I've had anybody bite on that yet.
Okay.
But it's always been an idea out there that I throw out to the clients, and they're always like, well,
I've got four out of the 5 spots filled. So, and I'm not looking to make any money off of those guys doing their variants, but they're going to be my marketing team. Right. So they're going to be excited to be selling these books, and they're going to reach people that aren't in my little shallow pool that I can reach. And anybody that they sell a book to, they're going to want to come and find the A cover and see what else is available. Once the IP, when you buy a Ford Festiva, you notice all the other Ford Festivas on the road, right? So if they buy one of these exclusives from one of these retailers, they're going to be, when they see something online posted, like, oh, I have a copy of the variant of that book. Let's see. Let me get more. Let me learn more. So all they're going to do is help me expand my reach, and they're hopefully going to make a couple ducats along the way. But I'm making it the most affordable exclusive that any of them have ever done.
And now you can create a car club with those Ford Festivas. The 3 of us, we're going to be a car club of doing
Ford
that.
Focus,
But I love this. I love the different things that you're doing. Right, right out the gate. Your first book, you're hitting the mark on marketing. You're hitting the marks with doing these offering many different things that people want. Right, obviously have knowledge that these mystery boxes work, these variant covers work, these different swag things work, which then because at the cons you have to be aware of that stuff too. You have to have that stuff on your table. So it's just a different way of kind of marketing and rethinking it. So how did you approach the marketing aspect when you were first going into this situation, this Kickstarter?
So I came from the fine art world. I was a local artist setting up at the local craft festivals and the art walks and stuff before I was doing any fan art at all, and I know that when someone is standing before you, they're not just buying your artwork. There will be people that they'll look over and they'll see something at your booth and it'll stop them dead in their tracks and they'll walk over and they have to have it. Those people exist, but they're an outlier. All right. When people are at your booth looking at your stuff, it's once they form a rapport with you, if they like the cut of your jib, and they're glad that they met you. Now it's almost like there's a gloss sheen over their eyes. But once they get to know you a little bit, they're like, hey, I like this guy. Then they kind of see it's like the veil is lifted, and then they really start to look, the gloss is gone, and they're like, all right, what do you got here? And then they really take a real dive into what the hell is on your booth, and maybe they don't have wall space for art. Maybe they got a little apartment. It's hard out here for a pimp. Not everybody's got a big place with a lot of walls. But they can buy a $3 sticker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they'll buy a keychain or an enamel pin or, you know what I mean? Or a trading card. Man, when I first started selling trading cards, my wife fought me. She didn't want me to give up the table space at my booth.
But they go good, don't they?
To put trading cards out, and then I found trading card frames for like $2 or whatever, and we put hollow foil trading cards up, and they became our biggest seller. Next week, trading cards took over the whole table.
I tell everybody.
She's like, they're hot. I'm so glad that I was wrong. This is great,
Yeah, they're hot, dude. They're hot. That's one thing. I don't know. I've Ben knows. I've been pitching that thing forever.
Yeah.
And one person actually picked up, and they're like, dude, yeah, they're hot, dude. Right now, it's so weird that trading cards would be the thing of right now that people would
especially
be
if they're foil or metal trading cards.
And maybe because there's even though the highest premium trading card is still affordable, and that's I think what is.
I'm literally talking to the owner of Comic Shield right now. I have to call him tomorrow to talk about pricing. So because they're doing graded cards, they print the card, they grade it, everything.
Oh wow! Cool.
So I'm gonna call the guy tomorrow to talk about doing graded cards. Of not related to pouches, my other artwork, because I have a Discord for my followers. The links in the link tree here to join the Discord. It's an invite link, but they were asking me, "Hey, any ideas to do graded cards?" And I'm like, "Not really, But I reached out to the company, and he got back to me right away. Apparently, he knew who I was, and I got his phone number. I'm going to call him tomorrow. So
very cool.
Yeah. It's great to see somebody who's really good at selling, really good at organizing things, not just necessarily campaign stuff, but you're somebody who knows how to deal with people and kind of just make money doing this stuff, and just kind of manage all that stuff. And I think a lot of people don't have that skill set. You have probably the broadest skill set that I've ever seen of another creator. So,
snap! Well, thank you for that. I'm grateful that I know when it's in my best interests to say no, because I want to be a people pleaser and I want to say yes to as many people as possible. I got more indie titles in my shop than any shop for 100 miles a year. I'll bet you $1,000. You know what I mean? But there are things that I know that I cannot sell. So when I'm, being offered a chance to buy in on an exclusive or something, I'm like, my people ain't, I can't sell that. And I think that when I say no is as important, if not more, than the times that I say, yes, let's collab on that.
Yeah. I think that's important too, as a creator. It can be, I think it's really easy to just think of the book you want to make, or, a lot of cases, and this isn't as good, the process you want to go through when you're making your book, or how much fun it would be to do X, Y, and Z. I think when you come at it from a different perspective, and as artists, I kind of have to say, wait a second, is this cover, the cover I want to draw is cool, but like I need to say A, B, and C with this cover. I need to really, that's got to be the selling point. It's got to be very clear what the appeal of this book is. And you kind of have to put on a different hat there and say, hey, this isn't just for fun, or this isn't necessarily even to make the best piece of art. It's about really communicating, hey, here's what's fun about this book. And that's got to apply to your story. It's got to apply to your campaign, everything you do. I think a lot of people miss that. And I think that's something that's really good to keep in mind at every step of your project. Like, you know, when you're coming up with the type of story, when you're looking at genres that are doing well, you're looking at the type of story you want to do, certainly how you want the artwork to look and what impressions you want to create. I don't think a lot of people are mindful of that. I think you got to really step back and say, think of yourself almost like your story about being at the table. I've got to make somebody like this book, like want to take a chance on me because there's a lot of stuff out there. And I think that's, it's very likely that I think this translates to your book as well. You know, you've got a good pitch, you've got a good idea that kind of brings in a lot of different stuff. It's like, yes, it's Liefeld, but it's not just somebody doing their version of X-Force. And I think that's kind of shows in what you've talked about here, but really shows in the campaign as well.
I think a lot of people get hung up on trying to write what they think the public would like, when I think it's far more important to write something that you yourself as a creator love. Because if you love it, you can sell it. You know what I mean? I waited tables for a long time, and I never tried to talk anybody into the most expensive thing on the menu. I talked them into what I would eat if I was coming in there. You know what I mean? So no, I'm not trying to push the porterhouse or the filet. You got to get the ribeye. Because that marbling, it's so, that seasoning, it's you know, that fat melts down and it tenderizes the meat around it and it soaks up that flavor, and you're just doing yourself a disservice if you don't order the ribeye. So when I ring it in, how do you want it cooked? You know what I mean? So you know, if you write and illustrate something that you can have a conversation about, it doesn't sound rehearsed. It's a real conversation. You're not just drawing the new thing because Spider-Boy's hot right now. You do Spider-Boy, but you're creating something that you're passionate about. You'll be able to sell it. But a lot of people don't realize that. And I wish that I could make that. I got to make that a shirt. You know, create what you're passionate about, not what you think other people want.
Right.
Yeah.
You're never going to hit. You're never going to check all the boxes to be successful if you're worried about what the public at large wants. You have to believe it in yourself.
Well, it just takes so much time to make a book that you're going to flame out if you don't really love it. I mean, there's some concepts I've had. I'm like, that's strong. There's something I like about it, but I'm like, do I really see myself sitting down and making 80, 100, 120 pages of this? It's like, nah, I ain't doing that.
Kyle, I have a question. I want you to go through the your 30-second pitch one more time. But what was one of the biggest challenges that you saw going from owning a shop to doing this Kickstarter for the first time? He's quiet.
I'm going to play some tense music here.
I like instant satisfaction. I'm an immediate gratification kind of guy. And I have been forced over the process to adopt a certain level of patience, not showing off all the covers and holding a couple back, for later. Not telling everybody, like how I didn't tell you what was in that first story because I didn't want to give it away. I want people to read it for the first time. I don't want to tell them my, condensed, elevator pitch, Cliff's Notes version of the story. I want them to read it for the first time. Not giving everything away orally, not showing off every piece of artwork along the way. That for me has been a part of my growth as a creator. And for me, it was the biggest challenge was what not to say, what not to give away, quit giving away the allure and let them read the freaking book. Let them read the thing, So that was a big challenge for me. And I've had a lot of personal growth in that area.
All right.
Great.
That's awesome to hear. Give us we're coming up in an hour, but give us the 30-second pitch for this again. I'm going to throw the link in the comments again.
Yeah, The Adventures of Wyatt in Pouches is the story of a 13-year-old kid with his imaginary friend and the fantastical adventures that they undertake. And it blurs the lines between what he's imagining and what's really happening. And the stories that we've got for you are at the end, the last panel, they're very fun. And I think that you're not going to be able to to read either story that's in this first book without smiling and go, "Oh, I see what's going on here. Oh, it was that the whole time." That's fun, you know. And
Very cool.
I'm grateful that I was able to pull it off, you know, with the help of some fantastic creators, you know, Christopher Michael Lanning, Stephen Rolberg, Samuel Diaz. I could not have done this alone. Couldn't have done it without my wife, Beth, and my team, you know, Jesse Lee and Trey, that run Whatnot shows from the shop so that I don't have to run them, so I can spend my time being a creator. And this last year, I've flown all over the United States. I probably flew 3 times in my entire life until June of last year when I was a guest at Brooklyn Comic Con. And now I've been to 40 conventions in a year, which is just mind boggling to me.
Wow.
So, yeah, you know, we're racking up them. Delta Scott, I just bought my plane ticket from New York Comic Con, and I'm flying first class, and I paid for it with Sky Miles. So
Fun. That's cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Good
Are you
stuff.
going to have a table there, or are you just going for fun?
I have a vendor booth, so my shop will be there. So we'll be upstairs in the
Awesome.
vendor area. My team's going to be running the booth, and I'm doing several covers with other people who will have a booth there. So
Very
I'll be
cool.
running around doing signings at different booths. I'm actually going to be Thursday at 4 p.m. I'm going to be painting live, projected up on the wall at the CGC booth. So
Very
I'm
cool.
going to be painting at the CGC booth, and then it's going to be a collaborative art piece that's actually going to be given away to an attendee. So
Fantastic. That's the way to
people
go.
will be able to stand.
Let
in line
everybody-
and watch that.
Let everybody know where your table is, so when they if they want to come find you.
Cowabunga Comics, I don't know, but I'm going to buy a bunch of birthday balloons and have a tank of helium. So I'm going to be the one with all the Spider-Man foil, Spider-Man birthday balloons. They're going to be hanging, floating above my booth.
Awesome.
So
Go
Good
find
idea.
Cowabunga Comics.
they usually put you where you were the year before. We were at 3623 last year, but we were right next to Comic Exposure. So I assume I'm going to be right next to Comic Exposure again this year. But Cowabunga Comics will be there all
That's
4
one
days.
that they tell you guys, right? Oh man.
Yeah, I just don't know the booth assignment yet. I don't think that email came in yet.
Oh, that's fun. Well, you guys got some time, so very cool. I love that. Ben, can you drop us all the plugs real quick before everybody, so we can head on?
I
out of
will.
here?
Yeah. First off, like we mentioned, the Gemini mailers and how important they are before. Go over to Gemini Comic Supply, put Geek Collective 10 in, you get 10% off your order. And you can build that into your costs for your campaign. Like I said, I'm not making this up. Every week I see, oh my God, I got another Kickstarter in a bag. It's dented, it's bent. I don't like it. And frankly, we just work too hard on these things to let that kind of come in at the last minute. So anything helps. I know it's hard to put campaigns together and figure out costs, but this will help. Geek Collective 10 over at Gemini Comic Supply.
Mhm.
And
And every time that you guys use that it does give back to the Geek Collective, so that we can continue to do these things for you. It pays for the StreamYard just like this. It also helps us to promote people within our creative studio, like Benjamin Morse, who is now part of the studio. We also have Alan in the chat, if he's still there. He's a part of our creative studio as a writer. So it helps us to kind of give right back to these guys so that we can help them kind of grow and stuff. Ben, can you tell a little bit about the creative studio?
Yeah, so we do a lot of stuff that kind of just helps you supplement your campaign or kind of help you plan out your campaign altogether. As far as the creative services, we do graphic design. I do a lot of motion graphics in my day job, and I bring that over into the creative studio stuff for comics, which is to say trailers for your comic, cool looking logos, cool looking graphic design ads that you can put on Facebook or on Twitter. And then, of course, even just motion graphic components to put into your movies for your campaign. I know Kickstarter is really big on having trailers in your campaign or having things where you address the camera. And I think it's pretty important to make that stuff look as slick as possible. So we offer almost all sorts of services to make your campaign look better. We help out with pre-press. We can help out with logos, all sorts of stuff. I'm a cover artist, so you can hire me to do your cover, any of that stuff. So yeah, just basically anything you need help with in your campaign. If there's a place in your skill set where it's like, I'm good at these things, but I could use a little help here, reach out. We can definitely do that, or just help run the whole thing for you.
And I often have creators hitting me up saying, I'm really good at doing the artwork and doing stuff, but the marketing is really difficult. PR and writing press releases, it's scary. Kyle, I don't know. Do you write press releases for your stuff? And do you
I do.
difficult do you find?
Having organized a lot of art events in Jacksonville here, where I live, I had to send press releases to local media for every event. So I got 1,600 subscribers for for Cowabunga for the shop. So I send them out when we have a new title. We have new exclusives. When I dropped the Kickstarter campaign, when I dropped the Morant Michaels cover yesterday,
Nice.
I sent out. So yeah, I'm very tuned into MailChimp.
Yeah, and they work, man, and you feel like it doesn't work, and a lot of times, it's a daunting task, and you feel like, I wish I could just give this to somebody else. Well, you can hit us up at geekcollective.net, and you can say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do the PR side of it. I just want to put my head down and do the artwork, so we can give you guys that opportunity. That's basically what we do this for. So I wish I had something like that when I was doing where I can delegate that task to people when I was kind of coming up in the podcast world. I was like, well, it's difficult, but here now I'm offering it to you guys, and you guys are able to do that. So make sure you guys are heading over to geekcollective.net and checking out all the really cool services that we have there. Follow Benjamin Morse. Make sure you're following Kyle at Art of Kyle Willis. .com and then follow me at Joey Gowers 1984 on Twitter, for X, formerly known as Twitter, I guess. I don't know what you want to say, but
until they change it.
And thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah,
thanks for
and
coming
check
on,
out
man.
all these really cool Kickstarters, man. There's there's lots of something there for you guys. Ben, you got anything else coming up in the pipeline
for
soon?
me, I will probably be able to drop a Scarlet Twilight 2 cover next week. Maybe we'll see how things go. So tune in then. That'll give away a lot of the story, or at least the type of story it's going to be. So I'm excited to start putting that out there. Just got done with issue 1, writing and laying it out. And kind of to go into what Joey was saying a little bit before, the difference when I was first doing Scarlet Twilight, I was doing completely on my own campaign, literally writing, drawing, lettering, pre-press, doing the campaign, everything on my own. By the time I got to 4, I got some help doing the campaign part. The difference in just how long it took me to get the book done was unbelievable. Just having a little bit of help really let me be a lot more creative, do a lot better job in the art. So kind of to what Joey was saying about figuring out where the best way to spend your time is a huge boon for a creator like myself that does everything. So check us out. We can help out. And check us out next week. We'll have some more great comics to talk about. I might have some cool artwork to show off. We'll see. And Kyle, I just want to thank you again for coming on. It was great to meet you, and great to talk about your book. Yeah, and by the way, Rob Liefeld, you've been called out, and just hit us up. You can tell your side of the story.
Rob Liefeld, this is an open call. If you want to talk to Kyle about it right here live, we'll do it.
Yeah,
put my phone number down in the chat.
We'll do it. We'll go live. We'll talk right about it here, and we'll get the public opinion. How's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I'll come back on. You get them to sign up. I'll come back on.
Thanks again, Kyle. It was great to have you on. Joey, great to talk.
Thank
you. We'll see everybody next week.
Beautiful.
All right.